big warm welcome to the Body Love Revolution online summit, building a better relationship with your body and yourself. Today, I have the wonderful Sammi Jaeger, who is a friend, but also an inspiration to all that she speaks to and all that she touches. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sammi and her work and how she works with people and what her gifts and talents are. So yes, Sammi is an entrepreneur. She is a coach and she is a speaker, also the co-host of the Date Forever podcast. She is deeply passionate about how our relationships impact the quality of our lives. Sammi is an advocate for the UN global goals and loves to see people and businesses contributing to make a better world. Welcome, Sammi.
Oh, thanks, Em. Thanks for having me.
I am delighted to have you. Some of you who are listening today may have heard the podcast Sammi and I recorded not so long ago. And Sammi just has so much goodness. And I love I guess you could say, your ethos to life. And I also love the way that you live your life. I feel like, Sammi, you walk your talk, which is a beautiful thing. So today we're going to talk about your relationship with self, but also your ethos around life by design and a fueled up life. Are you happy to share on your beautiful ethos around a fueled up life and then how that plays into your relationship with self?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2019, I was approaching turning 30 and I was in my first really big girl job. I was general manager at a training and education company, leading a remote first team. So we had team in I think it was about 11 different time zones. So, and I was the center spoke, keeping everybody moving in the same direction at the same time. And I burnt myself out. Is the crux of it. I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that I can't keep doing what I'm doing. And it probably took me a good year or so to actually start addressing the burnout. And I was having medical issues. I was having headaches and migraines and issues with my sinuses and eyesight and all kinds of stress-induced burnout things. But yeah, I packed myself up. I went on a beautiful trip to Europe with some girlfriends, and then my husband joined me. And then he had to go back to work, and I didn't because I didn't have a job to go back to. But I also just wasn't ready to go home to my life because I didn't really like my life at all. So from Europe, I jumped over to Lombok, Indonesia, and kind of crammed about 2 weeks of soul searching into this little island vacation. I did a lot of reflection, introspection, crying, a lot of crying, and got really real with myself about what I'd created and what I wanted to create from here. And that's really where the Fueled Up Life methodology came from. That was the beginning of going, okay, well, I've got a clean slate here. If I'm going to rebuild, I'm going to rebuild with intention. And then not long after, my husband and I started our podcast Date Forever. And we really learned just how impactful our relationships are into our quality of life, and not just our romantic relationship, but our relationship with ourselves as well. So that was really one of the first kind of crossroad moments for me where I took stock of my relationship with myself and wasn't that happy with what I saw or what I felt.
Yeah. You do share, because we've spoken about this before. I would love for you to share, when you're on Lombok, you also explored the things that you used to love to do,
Yeah,
then
this
no
was
longer did anymore.
this was one of the big aha moments that I had while I was there. I had the opportunity to go out wakeboarding behind a boat and did some surfing, and I'd had just the best afternoon by myself, with a couple of Indonesian guys and a boat, and I was back at my accommodation, and I was just like, that was amazing. That was so good. I feel so alive. And I was reflecting, when was the last time that I had done this? I grew up on the River Murray in South Australia doing that quite regularly, and water sports had been a really big part of my upbringing, and swimming. And yeah, I realized that it had been more than 5 years. And I thought that's not good enough. that's really not what I want for my life. That's something that brings me so much joy and fulfillment and energy and what I would now call fuel, that I haven't done it for 5 years. So I started to really, that was really the catalyst to start to look at what else I had let fall out of my life. And there was lots of things like hosting dinner parties and baking. I had got to this place where like everything had to be productive and useful, and I'd sucked a lot of joy out of like my hobbies and interests and shelved them as like unproductive use of my time, which is absolutely, now I think that that's insane. But I'd given up dancing, I'd given up so many things, and not all at once, and definitely not with intention, right? These things kind of just slipped out piece by piece, and I'd really eroded my sense of self and attached it to that job, and not just that job, but that company and the gold stars that I was getting, because I was really, really good at it, but it was costing me in every other area of my life.
Gosh, it is. I'm sure women who are listening right now can identify with this, if not now, at some point in their life. And we hear this little catchphrase that's really popular now that's saying, oh, your future self will thank you. So, on one hand, we go, oh, great, go you, Sammy. You're building this incredible career for yourself. Like you said, you're the centerpiece for these spokes, you're getting the gold stars at work. But that future self, Sammy, might have the accolades at work, but that future Sammy is in a shadow of herself and hasn't, because today Sammy has, and like you said, you didn't let all of these things go at once. They just slowly slipped away. And then I know that I've had this experience in life where you actually think, what is it all about? What's it all for?
Mm. Yeah.
What is this all about? And that's when we are so focused on just one area of life, and to the outside world, you're doing it incredibly well.
Mm.
However, your relationship with self has unfortunately taken a hit.
Yeah. And that took some like reshaping of a whole heap of beliefs and mindset and all of the stuff behind the scenes to get really okay with caring more about how my life felt, how my home felt, how it looked. Because those are very different things, right? It can look shiny, polished, present a certain way, but how it feels on the inside, I care far more about that now.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. It doesn't matter what anyone else sees, it's how it feels. And that's got to be our guiding post. How do we feel? And that comes back to the whole theme of this summit, which is your relationship with self, relationship with body. Sammy, are you happy to talk through your methodology? Because I think it's brilliant. You fueled up life,
Yeah.
your 8 fuel tanks. And
Yes.
then we, share about today how your relationship with self and relationship with body plays out. But I think it's great for you to just set up the stage for us with what those tanks are, and then, yeah,
Well,
share how your relationship with self now is.
yeah. So from that little, I went home, and this is part of the irony of it, is that I was a goal setter. I was already a planner. So I went back home and had a look at some of the goals and things, perhaps things that I had shortlisted but not committed to, and kind of looked at all of the different categories of goals and things that I had previously sort of shortlisted in the years, sort of 5 years leading up to that point, and put them into these 8 different tanks, what I know now call tanks. So the first one is my relationship with myself, and that sets the tone for every other relationship that I have. Tank number 2, my romantic relationship. Tank number 3, relationship and network. Tank number 4, humming household. Tank number 5, career and business. Tank number 6, health and lifestyle. Tank number 7, the world. And tank 8, the future. So
Mm.
you saw that number 1 was my relationship with self, and I so believe that through and through. And I've learned that lesson over and over again, not just in my life, but in talking with all of, we've had more than 200 guests on our past and sharing those experiences that, yeah, it really starts with you, or it really does start with me.
Yeah, I agree. It absolutely starts with you without a doubt. The thing is with, I guess the thing is with not starting with self if you can't take care of yourself, you've got nothing to give anyone else. So even, relationship with your significant other, the humming household, even your future, if you aren't spending time tending to your own garden, you've got nothing to feed anyone else with. And that's,
Yeah.
that's the truth. So when you started to rebuild, I'm assuming, this is an assumption, I'm assuming you started with self, the beautiful
Mm,
story of being on Lombok Island and just starting to get back in touch with the joyful heart of Sammy. How did you start
yeah.
to rebuild yourself, and where are you at now?
So the reason that I had to come home from Lombok, my deadline, not being a job, was actually tickets to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. So I had a real like baptism of fire. I was probably in the perfect mental state to go, okay, that strategy didn't work. What am I going to do now? But one of the things that I did was I went to a cafe, my favorite cafe, and I took out a notebook and drew 100 little circles on a page. And then I went ahead and colored them in. And as I said, I was 30 or about to turn 30 at the time. And I colored those in and I looked at the rest and I was like, okay, this is how many, if I'm going to live to 100, which is highly probable. I was born in 1989. Even if it's not 100, maybe it will be 90. I've got this many circles left to live, and what am I going to do with them? So that was one thing. And then I went back and looked at the list of things that I had started in Lombok, the things that I'd let slip out of my life that really brought me joy. But then I also pushed myself to extend that list, and I think I got it to about 100 things. And there's everything from seeing the sunrise or the sunset to swimming in the ocean to trying a new recipe or actively going to a new cafe, laughing with friends till my abs hurt. Like it was a very extensive list, and not things that are necessarily things that are transactional, things that you buy, or there was definitely some of those things on there too. But yeah, going back to that list and then getting really intentional about how I could build more of those things, not just into the occasional, but into the everyday. So one of the big things that came out of this life by design and getting far more intentional about the life that I wanted to live was, on my vision board, I've got that I want to live coastal. I want to live right on the beach. I'm not there yet. I'm a 7-minute walk now, but it's a hell of a lot closer than I was before, which was probably a 40-minute drive. So yeah, my husband and I packed up and literally moved house after tapping back into who I want to be and the type of life that I want to live, and what I want my lifestyle to look like, what I want my home to look like, what I wanted for our marriage, and obviously not just what I want, but what he wanted too. So that's probably where I started, was looking at those 100 sort of things that brought me joy and figuring out how I can integrate some of those into my, if not daily, like weekly, or if not weekly, monthly or quarterly. And then it's been a layering since then, and those things are no longer habits, they're who I am.
Mm, brilliant. I like the fact that it was things that were actually within your reach now. That is
100%.
that's powerful,
Yeah.
because we have this, and when we can put things down how we want our life to be, it's not someday. And like you said, okay, you're not beachfront right now, but you're a 7-minute walk. Pretty jolly good.
Pretty great.
That is available to you right now if you choose to make that happen. And at the end of the day, no one's going to make it happen but us. But it's being brave enough to actually look at where you need to adjust the sails on the water, because otherwise, Sammy, you could still be in that role and that job, and goodness knows, like health wise and
Mm.
where you'd be at now. Sure, you might have, a big fat bank account. Not that I'm saying you don't now, but you could have a big,
Yeah.
but do you know what I mean? You could have a big fat bank account and be, like you said, getting all the gold stars, and on the outside,
Yeah.
look like your life, but there wouldn't have been any sunrises, beach walks, and the level of joy that you
Yeah.
have right now. Potentially, yeah. I mean, it's hard to know, right? Sliding doors, but
Yeah.
the trajectory wasn't heading in such a great place. You
No,
burnt
I don't
out.
I don't yeah, I don't know her. I don't know
Yeah.
her. But I think a big part of it too was like reconciling that this was not something that had happened to me. Like I had done this. I had allowed my boundaries to slip or not even really recognize what boundaries were. You know, I didn't have a standard for um, my own time or respecting it in any kind of way. You know, and I was getting a lot of accolades and yeah, that validation that I had some sort of worth by doing that job. And I've been really able to detach that sense of self and that sense of self-worth and sense of self-confidence away from those career-based achievements. I feel so much more like proud and juiced. Like I did my fastest 10K this morning, and like that, it feels so good. And it's like I did that for me. I worked for that. I trained for that, and I enjoyed it this morning.
Oh, congratulations. That
Thank
is
you.
wonderful. Yay. What a lovely personal goal to have.
Mm.
So thinking about your relationship with your body, 10K's fastest time this
Yeah.
morning. Well done. And I also know, Sammy, that you absolutely honor your relationship with your body through lifestyle, like a holistic view. So what
Yeah.
does your relationship with your body look like now? As in fastest 10Ks this morning, how else does your relationship with your body and has it always been this way, or has that been a process for you?
Yeah, I think this is very much a process. I think it's particularly hard as a woman being brought up in a society that is geared towards a male hormone rhythm of that 20 they experience a 24-hour reset. And of course our workplaces are set up for that 24-hour rhythm, not a 28-day cycle, which is common for women. And then, you know, we see people like David Goggins or Jocko or those kind of very male, very masculine approach to fitness, training, your relationship with yourself. And they say things like, you know, we don't negotiate with weakness and the truth is the result. And, you know, very Navy military-esque approach to setting and then achieving a standard no matter what. And I don't think that approach has a lot of self-compassion. I have come to a place of understanding with me that like sometimes loving myself is saying yes to that glass of champagne, and sometimes loving me is saying no to that glass of champagne or the piece of chocolate or whatever the thing might be. And the same thing, say, loving me might mean getting up nice and early to go and move my body because I love myself. And some days loving me is actually saying, no, you didn't sleep very well. You need another hour of sleep. That's actually far more valuable and a better source of fuel for today. And I think a lot of that comes from trust. You know, I watch other people and social and all of those kind of things about like you know, the approach of discipline and hard edge with whether or not it's diet or routine or the 5 a.m. club or those types of approaches. And I just don't think that has a lot of human in it. Yeah, for me, I think you building up that trust, that ability to trust yourself to make good decisions for what you really need or desire.
I believe that is the key, exactly what you just said then. Loving yourself is sometimes saying yes to the champagne and sometimes saying no, as it is when you wake in the morning and your intention might be to move the body, but you're absolutely right in that 28-day cycle. And even if, you know, I'm in menopause now, I'm not doing a 28-day cycle, but I've got another set
Yeah.
of lovely symptoms and things happening in my body. But that's exactly right. Our work is not to give our power away. So what you described then, Sammy, I was going, that is so empowering because you are taking your power back like you did all those years ago and said, I'm on a slippery slope to burnout and I did this, I created this. Exactly what you're talking about now. We are to be a really good steward of ourselves and a really good keeper of ourselves
Mm.
and know when to say yes and when to say no. And of course, we're not always going to get it right, but as long as we're honoring ourselves, and you said the word compassion, that self-compassion, because when we do give our power away and listen to these so-called experts, actually a couple of weeks ago, I did one of my solo podcasts was Unfollow the Guru.
Mm,
Often we're giving away our power. And actually, that new series out, Apple Cider Vinegar, is exactly this, giving our power away to somebody else that one might be a fraud. And then secondly, that might be fit for them. And particularly if we're following, like you say, a masculine energy that hasn't got a lot of compassion, we're just setting ourselves up to fail.
mm,
And our work is to get to know ourselves really, really well. It's like, and not that and I've said this to you, I don't like to talk about food or diet, and I don't really like to touch on any of that. Mine more is around the mindset and the compassion and, taking really good care of ourselves. And I'm an absolute yoga
mm,
lover, but it's about listening to that. And I think of yoga, sometimes I want to do a fairly strong vinyasa class, and other times I want yin. I
mm,
just need yin yoga. Equal, both of them are equally as nourishing. It doesn't mean because I didn't go to the hard yoga class that I didn't look after myself or I
mm,
didn't do what I need. And I feel like that this whole summit, that's the theme, is building a better relationship with yourself. But no one can tell you that but yourself. And exactly what you've just
mm.
described, that is the
Yeah.
key.
And I think a lot of that starts with the self-awareness piece. Like, it's very hard to treat yourself with any kind of self-compassion if you actually don't know what it is that you need, and creating that space for the self-awareness, which is not always comfortable, is it? Like, and you don't want to be in that relationship with self where you do let yourself off of the hook for the things that you said you were going to do that you never do. And then you create that pattern of like, well, I can't even trust myself to do what I said I was going to do. And then that can create an erosion of trust versus honoring what it is that you met, setting a new agreement with yourself. Like, hey, I know that I set the intention that I was going to XYZ. ABC has now happened. I'm going to set a new agreement that I'm going to do ABC 1, 2, 3, whatever the thing might be. But that self-awareness piece, like, I think is underrated. I don't, we're so overstimulated all of the time. You get in the car and there's a podcast on, an audio book on, the radio on, whatever it might be. You walk in the dog, you've got one of those things going. You step out of the elevator and there's ads at you, whatever. You very, very rarely are we actually alone with our thoughts. And I think that's something that I've had to work really hard at. To carve out that space to just try and think. Like this morning, even I was disappointed because I forgot my headphones, and I like running with music. It helps me keep my pace. But yeah, I think it was actually quite a good thing this morning to just be in my thoughts for an hour while I looked around the park at the beautiful geese and the sun that was coming up and the shadows, and there was horses out, and I wouldn't have taken in anywhere near that amount of detail had I had my party EDM going on in my ears. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And you did your best time. There
yeah,
could be a method to this no earphone
yes,
thing.
this
When,
approach, yeah,
yeah, when you thought, no, I need my music to keep the beat, it keeps my pace, and then voila, you did
yeah.
your best time
Listen
ever.
to myself, yeah. So I think that's one of the things that we've got to, all of us can probably collectively work at carving out that white space. It's part of why I like swimming too, is there's no devices, no stimulation, no, you're just out in nature, literally submerged in nature.
Yeah, and connecting with the body, because the body is such a beautiful barometer. The
Yeah.
body does talk to us, and that's where our work is, to get quiet and listen to the body. What does the body need? But I also acknowledge what you said around that it is a fine line between letting yourself off the hook all the time and knowing when to actually have a firm talk. And that's why I think, oh, just love yourself more. Sometimes I get a little bit of like, oh, I think no, for me, it's respect. Emma, what would it look like if you respected
Mm,
yourself? And that's the bit where you don't let yourself off the hook, because when you respect yourself, it's firm, it's fair, and it's kind,
mm.
but it's respectful.
Yeah, that would I say when I said earlier, like there was things that were, they were in the habit forming stage where it was like, this is the person that I want to be. I want to be the kind of person who moves every day. I want to be the kind of person who stretches regularly. I want to be the kind of person who does triathlons, like all of those kind of things. But now that is just who I am. Those external pieces of information, like I have an Apple Watch, and I do love the Apple Watch. I do like the data because it gives me the little gold stars and gives me the little badges. And I this morning I know that my 10K was the fastest I've done because of the data. So I think it's, yeah, like that self-awareness, but then also giving yourself the tools that you need to measure progress.
Yeah, yeah. And as long as you don't weaponize it against yourself,
Yeah.
it that again, that's that respectful and that fine line is then, let's say it was a different story this morning. It was your worst 10Ks
Yeah.
you'd ever run, not weaponizing that and saying, well, that's okay. Maybe I didn't sleep as well last night, or 28-day cycle. Where am I?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's being compassionate too. I think tools are great. I agree. It's great to measure progress, and it's a great to acknowledge when you have had progress, but just, yeah, being kind in that and not making it the be all end all. The fact that you got out and seen the horses, the geese, and the sunrise,
Yeah.
that's a gold star, isn't it?
It was nice. It was a nice
Yeah,
morning.
so beautiful. So, Sammy, have you got any little words of wisdom around mindset shifts one can take if they recognize that their 8 tanks that you shared are potentially not doing so well and they know that they are depleted? I know that your number one is starting with self.
Mm.
Is there anything else? Let's say starting with self feels really quite a challenge. Is there another tank that you could start with to then ease into moving to your self love tank?
Yeah. If it's okay, I'm just going to share a quick story about a mindset shift that I had with my relationship with myself and in particular my body.
Yes.
And then I will answer your question. But around 2014, I definitely had a discipline approach to my relationship with my moving my body and exercise. And I was a member at a really beautiful club. The club had gym, floor classes, wellness studio, swimming pool, sauna, like all of the stuff. A really nice place to be. But I had not made it to the gym at all for that entire week. And I got to Friday night and I wanted to go home, but I didn't. And I was like, no, girl, you are going to the gym. You're going to go move. And like, it's not, that is not good enough. This standard is not good enough. And oh, I'm getting emotional even just think about it. And I was at the gym and I was on the treadmill and I looked over and there was a woman who was very clearly suffering with an eating disorder. She was so thin that I was worried she was going to collapse there in front of me. And it was a line in the sand for me that I am always going to move my body for love and not for punishment. And
Mm.
that is not the intent that I had shown up to with the gym that day. Um, so I hope that that woman got the support and resources that she needed to move through that. But I learned something just by being in her presence, that I wanted to have a positive towards energy with myself and my relationship with exercise, than a away from.
Yes. Oh, thanks for sharing, Sammy. You're right. A choice to move for love, not punishment. Because again, how many times, and I will speak from my experience, I absolutely understand that when the inner voice has said, like yours, not good enough, get your fat, well, this is my voice, get your fat ass to the gym and move your body, have a look at yourself.
Mm.
When it is not, that's not, you go to move because it feels really good and it's
The
joyful
gift.
and yeah, yeah. And it's respectful, but not because it's, yeah, get yourself there, you're useless and look, you failed at another thing. And then, yeah, then we do see people who have a different journey. You can clearly see where it can lead to, where when it's unhelpful. Yeah, thanks, Sammy. Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So back to your question, Emma. So we've got our 8 tanks, and maybe yeah, I invite everyone go and do a tank check. There's a tool on my website if you want it, sammyjaeger.com/tank check. You can grab the guide. But yeah, just do a quick assessment of like where are they feeling? Are they feeling empty, quarter full, half full, three-quarter full, full? And assess which ones might need some fuel. I think part of this methodology that works really well for me is acknowledging that they don't all need to be full all of the time. That's actually not even what I'm striving for. I just help use it as a diagnostic for where might need some time or some energy and sometimes some money. Um, but let's say like the self one might be feeling low, but it's feeling a bit prickly to approach. I would definitely encourage people to take a look at the humming household. Um, Mostly because it can be an accidental time suck, where you don't actually quite realize how many hours you're spending on domestic labor or on domestic project management, especially if you have little kids or kids. I don't, I'm child free by choice, but that can be a really great place to start to free up a couple of hours that you can then redeploy into that relationship with self, whether or not that's, yeah, getting out for the walk or the self date or the coffee or the ocean or whatever the thing is for you. But some that time likely needs to come from somewhere. And I think often our humming household can be low hanging fruit. So when I'm talking about that, the humming household piece, what are there things in there that you either could stop doing entirely, that they're actually just fluff activities and you could perhaps have a change of standard? Are there things that you could delegate that somebody else, either in your household or outside of your household, could be doing that maybe you don't need to be wholly and solely accountable for? Is there something that you could automate? Early last year, Nathan and I bought a robot vacuum cleaner, and a good one that's got like a dispenser and its water tank and it self-cleaning and blah blah blah. But we live by the beach and we have a dog, so vacuuming was like an everyday task, and we've automated it, and that has freed up, a little bit of time, and it adds up over the week. Yeah, or what could you outsource? Is there something that whether or not it's like washing the car, or for me, like getting my groceries delivered, I can spend 10 minutes, add to cart, and basically everything that I shopped in a previous shop, check out, and it arrives. I don't have to get in the car and drive and walk the aisles and blah blah blah. Like there's so much that you can tighten up and yeah, reclaim time there. Um, my I don't love cleaning. I wish I was one of those people, but I love cooking. So Nath and I split that. I'll do the majority of the cooking, and Nath does the majority of the cleaning, and that's what works for our household. But yeah, I really encourage to get curious about where you could be finding more time for yourself by getting more efficient in running your household.
Great approach, because it would be fair to say that most of the time when we think about taking care of ourselves or having that little bit of time to go for a run or get to the class or go for the coffee by yourself or whatever it might be, we will often say we don't have the time or we don't have the money. That's usually just
Yeah.
the two bits of language. But if it's the time, I love that you can start with the humming household, because when you're talking through that, brilliant, like the automated vacuum, sharing who else can do this instead of us being, and I'll speak for my own self here, being the martyr. It's
Mm.
all up to me if I don't, when it's just not true. It takes just communication and then commitment to say, well, actually, no. And I also like your point, can you let a standard slip? And it does,
Mm.
yeah, because sometimes we will fluff around and do things that really probably don't need to be done that often, or it's just making a mountain out of a molehill. Is that the same? Molehill out of a
Yeah.
mountain? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you, Sammy. So, for any of our ladies listening and think, oh, it's all right for you two having a great relationship with your body and yada, yada, could you come from the humming household and look at where you potentially can create some more energy for yourself? Because it's the brain power as well as the physical, the doing
Yeah.
is there. And I'm sure there is. Like I'm thinking through myself, I'm sure there is absolutely. I've thought of a couple of things. There is sure there will be.
Mm.
There will be. It's
Good.
yeah.
Good,
Thank
Emma. Let some little wins, little humming
yes.
household automations you can, or delegations you can get in place.
Yeah, humming household hacks.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And there's so many, we could spend hours and hours
Yeah.
and hours every day on making our home hum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Sammy, as always, it's an absolute pleasure to chat to you. Thank you for sharing. I always enjoy your methodology. I'm so glad all the ladies got to hear that today. And like you mentioned, we will have the links in the show notes for people to find that beautiful little diagnostic tool. They can go to your website, correct, and
Yes.
download.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and then reach out if you've loved something from this conversation and you want to say hi, like please do. DMs are always open. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes, Sammy's Instagram handle will be there. And also your Date Forever podcast. Sammy, can you just quickly touch who is that for? If you were to share with the ladies listening now, who is that podcast for and how is it helpful?
Yeah, so the podcast is for anyone who wants to develop a better relationship with themselves or their chosen person, or I should say, or slash and. So we chat with couples and experts about the tips and tricks they've found to keep a relationship fueled up. So everything from sleep, attachment style, how to avoid the housemate syndrome, sex, parenting, all sorts of stuff on the show. Yeah, we've had more than 200 episodes. We've been running for almost 5 years now, so it's a wealth of resources and some incredible guests who have shared their stories too.
Yeah, brilliant. So, ladies, definitely check out Date Forever podcast with Sammy and her partner Nath because, like she just said, 200 episodes. Congratulations, darling. That is
Thank
phenomenal.
you. Yeah.
And a wealth. I mean, I can only imagine how much you've learned from interviewing experts and real
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And it's kind of that nice balance too, because we hear what the expert says and what they recommend, and then how people actually apply those things or what they've found in the, you know, quote unquote real world.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Sammy. Again, always a pleasure to chat with you, my darling. And everyone, go and check Sammy out on her Instagram and definitely head over and do that beautiful Fueled Up Life exercise. You might learn something about yourself and where to start. But thanks, Sammy. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Emma.